All right, everyone, welcome back into another fantasy golf video. Going to be breaking down the John Deere Classic. As always, if you have any questions, make sure to get those in. Kind of touched on a lot already this week between the write-up, between the core plays kind of preview video, and then also the betting video. So mostly could be a Q&A if you guys want to make it that way, but we are getting some decent prop bets that I want to touch on as well. Also going to touch on some outright bets to start the video, but I do want to call it one little update that I'm currently working on the website, and hopefully we'll have it done kind of shortly. So I'll show you guys. It's on the 9-to-5 cheat sheet for PGA DFS. And a lot of you guys are probably familiar with this right now. So let's just pick one random player here. Lucas Glover. So let's say we want to get more information on Lucas Glover. Well, typically we could click on the player profile. It would pop him up, and we can kind of see what is making him a decent play. Like, why is he the top 12 play in the model this week? And so that stuff is all going to be the same. We're still getting all that information in there, which is all great. On top of that, you guys will probably notice I added in cut streak right here. Then I also added in top 65%. How many times does he finish top 65? That could be made cut, but this is going to be over their past 20 starts, so about 85%. So I think that's a good data stat to include, but also you're going to see a plethora of more information in here as well. And so the reason why I'm kind of doing this is so basically during videos, if someone has a question, I can pop this up and pull it up. Now you guys will see it's not complete just yet. Going to be adding in the specialist data, going to add in more kind of recent form stuff, going to add in matchup bets as well, matchup and 3-ball bets as well. So like everything's going to be one click. Let's say if you wanted to look at, let's say Lucas Glover, this is what I'm going with. So I'm kind of excited to get that out to you guys. Obviously right here, we have his betting odds. You guys can sort by and kind of see, maybe you want to bet him outright. You could see, all right, well, where are we getting the best odds for him? 55-1 on points bet. Like that's how you go about using that. And you would see, all right, the books are giving him about a 2% chance to win. So I think that's a good route to go about doing that. Now I'm not saying bet Lucas Glover. We'll get into that in just a second, but that was something I wanted to call out. And then yeah, we have all this stuff, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But it will have the ownership leverage, all the top stats that you would want. So basically, if you're looking at, all right, well, Lucas Glover strokes gained total on the season ranks out 26th in the field. And then over his past 5, not very good, 101. So maybe that'd be a sign as to maybe why he'd be someone as to you not wanting to end up on him as an option. So again, still adding stuff in there, but want to touch on that for anyone that's, maybe using that today as well. Let's see. Yeah, so this is actually a great question here from Dan. So let's touch on this. So the question is, when you're betting on someone to win, do you also bet them to top 10, top 20? And so kind of my general rule, and this is another thing that I'm actually working on as well. Let's see here. Give me one second here. So like outright wise, and then again, this is something I'm still working on here as well. But basically, if they rank out, let's say, obviously I'm pretty high on Davis Thompson this week. Let's use him as an example. The answer is yes. Like, of course. Like, it really just depends on what everyone's goal is, though. So it's not like my answer is not going to be correct for everyone. So I want to make that very clear. So it's not like one answer is the whole answer. The better bets would actually just be top 10, top 20, top 40 made cut bets. Those are the better ones. Those are going to be the more profitable ones. Obviously, outright bets are more fun. But so for me, I have obviously Davis Thompson as a top 5 pick in the 9-to-5 mile this week. So like obviously going to be a good outright bet. Like we're perfectly happy to do that. But I also don't mind betting him to top 10. And kind of what I look at it is like if they're within 10 spots of a bet, I'm kind of okay betting that. And so for like Davis Thompson, I'll also be okay to bet him top 10. But it really comes down to a lot of the lines that are out there as well. Like 1.25 to top 20. That's also not a bad bet as well. It really kind of just depends on the week as well. But the general rule I would have, let me see if I can find a better example. Andrew Novak, he's a better example of this. So like I have Andrew Novak ranking out much better than the books do. And so if I'm correct, the odds rank for him to finish top 10 is about 30. I got him about half of that. And so yes, like a top 10 bet would be much better. At the same time, if you want to run out a top 20 bet, 3.3, it doesn't matter as well. It is a kind of per player basis for me. So like the longer the odds, the more likely I am to chase a top 20 bet, if that makes sense. But it does depend on the week. It does depend on the lines that we're getting there as well. Hope that made sense. Course history as a whole, like it's always important. Is it going to be as important this week? I wouldn't say so. At the same time, like it's always important. Like you always want to be targeting golfers that do have good course history. Steve Stricker won this tournament 3 times in a row. Zach Johnson has continually played this course well. Jordan Spieth was a 2-time winner at this track. And so we do see a lot of people. Lewis Glover has relatively good course history here as well. So we do see course history tend to matter. But in the same sense, like you can look at some cases where Seb Straka, his recent miscut at this event, or his recent start at this event prior to his win was a miscut. And so is it the end all be all? No, but as always, it is good to look at course history. Course experience is the biggest thing every single week, though, when we're looking at like comp course history. Having to start on a course is huge because you just know the nuances of the course and that little stuff can add up. So I really don't mind that course history wise, but it's tough to, it's not like obviously the Masters week, but it's still important. It's important every week. And I'm actually curious, guys, is my mic sounding better today than it did in all the other videos or worse? I try to raise up the volume, but sometimes that does make it sound a little bit worse. I'm curious if it sounds better or not. Let's see here. Yeah, that's a good call out by the DFS chef right here. Good call out for that bet in regards to Dan's question as well. Yeah, let's go ahead and jump on into some outright bets here, guys. I'm going to try to use kind of the new update that I had. Let me just refresh this again. Outright wise. Well, it's refreshing. I'll just see here. Again, if you guys have any questions, get those in. Happy to answer those. So hopefully it works too. We got to start with that. But yeah, just kind of recapping what I'm looking at for outright bets this week. I'm perfectly fine going back to the well with Aaron Rai and also Davis Thompson. So we look at Aaron Rai. We are going to get some good lines on him across the board still. Like 20-1, I'm kind of happy to get with him. You know, he's the guy that's ranking out number 1 in the 9-to-5 model again this week. I say again, last week he was number 1 and he was 40-1 there. Obviously, we're kind of in a weird stretch where that can occur. Aaron Rai's been playing well, though. Second place finish last week, obviously. If you look at over his past 7 starts, basically all of them have been, they all have been top 40 or better finishes. 5 out of the 7 have been top 25 or better, which is great. 2 top 10s mixed in there. He's just been playing great golf. And so I think the nice part about last week is no one really, I know Akshay choked, but no one in this field choked. Like they didn't lose it. They didn't go out of their way to win it either, but like it shouldn't wear on them mentally, per se. Like I'm not worried about that aspect. So that's where I'm fine going back to well with something like Aaron Rai. And still 20-1 for a guy that, most weeks if we're betting on the top player in the 9-to-5 model, it's going to be like 8-1, 7-1. Like, so I'm kind of happy to do that. And so like that's still a good number bet to me. And some people would argue it's not. I'm kind of okay with that. And I do want to point out the thing about this week compared to last week. Last week, we knew it would be much more hit or miss. The players that hit would be much likelier to finish great than most weeks. And kind of the opposite. Like we just knew that we were going to have a lot of players that were going to be random miscuts. This week is more kind of, I don't want to say more predictable, but we do see a little bit less variance, but not as much of that roller coaster ride as last week. And so I don't think we're going to get as many random miscuts, but at the same time, I don't expect to get 2 runner-up finishes this week as well, betting-wise. Like it's probably going to be more close to top 10s, outright-wise, if they're not winning. So I did think that was worth calling out because last week was that was the expectation, whereas this week it's going to be a little bit more predictable, a little bit less variance. At least it should be on paper. I never like to talk in the absolutes. But Maverick McNeely, the fact that we can get him at 30-1 on PointsBet, guys, PointsBet is running out some good lines for us this week. And so I think he's going to be another good starting point. Obviously, he has good course history. A lot of people are on Maverick McNeely this week. 8th and 18th place finish. Like that there from him. And I added in all these stats again. Just let's see if we can find anything that would maybe hinder him this week. Good drive percentage, maybe. That's like one of the bad data points that we have in comparison to field. But good drive percentage typically doesn't matter this week, so we're fine. Like key stat wise, he's popping up a lot. So key stat wise, top 10 in birdie or better percentage. He's 21st in par 5 scoring, 34th in ball striking, and then a good putter as well. This is an event where you do see putting matter a little bit more than normal in terms of like who's winning, who's top 10ing, and who's missing the cut. And so I'm kind of okay attacking good putters. Now at the same time, this is an event where people can get hot with their putters and win, but typically good putters are winning this event. And so I don't mind attacking those a little bit more. And then Davis Thompson, yeah. Speaking on Aaron Rai, I'm perfectly happy to go back to the well with Davis Thompson again as well. He's someone that, man, watching last week, it never felt like Cameron Davis was going to win, honestly. So I was kind of thinking for most of the back nine that Davis Thompson was actually going to be tied for the lead and maybe someone would make a birdie on 18. That did not happen. It's just a weird week in that sense. But I'm happy to go back to the well with Davis Thompson again this week. He's coming in with some pretty good form. You know, miscut 4 events ago, miscut 7 events ago, but mixed in there 3 top 10 finishes. So I don't mind chasing the upside. Key stat wise, really popping key stat wise. 3rd best staff in the field as a whole. You know, you look at it, strokes gained total, just been popping, right? Just compared to the whole field, just really popping up data wise. So he's going to be tough to ignore. And I do want to point out, guys, with Aaron Rai, a lot of people are going to give Akshay a lot of crap for missing his putt and saying he choked in that aspect. Aaron Rai is one of the best players at hitting the freaking fairway. Number 1 in the field in good drive percentage. I think he's like top 3 in fairways hit percent. His final 2 holes, he did not hit a fairway. One of those was a par 5. I would argue Aaron Rai, given his strengths, choked a little bit more than Akshay. If he just simply hits a fairway, especially on that par 5, he's probably the winner. And so take that how you will. I'm kind of looking at it as a plus. Like, all right, he was in contention, did choke a little bit. That's going to be a good mental thing for him, I think, this week. And so I did want to point that out. Like, Akshay's getting a lot of crap for choking, but at the same time, Aaron Rai was just right there. Like, his strength was what let him down last week. And I thought that was an interesting tidbit. And so I did put out a tweet earlier today, a couple hours ago, pretty much just saying that I have noticed a trend for this week. A lot of people seem to be chasing bets just because they're getting good number bets. And like, yes, if there was going to be a week that you're going to do that, this would be this week. But I want to point out why that could potentially be detrimental to betting this week. And I think this is a good talking point because when we look at it, guys, I could make a case for Denny McCarthy as a bet, Jason Day as a bet, Keith Mitchell as a bet, Poston as a bet, Sam Stevens is someone that I'm betting on. Luke Clanton is someone I could make a case for. Kevin Yu, Lucas Glover, Mark Hubbard is someone that I have a long shot bet on. Bo Hosler, Ben Griffin, Patrick Rogers, Ryo, Doug Gim, Andrew Novak. He's someone I am betting on. Neil Shipley. There's so many. I think Seamus Power is a popular one. He's not terrible. There's too many of those types of plays where I'm really fine just dialing into, all right, we got Aaron Rai, we got McNeely, we got Davis Thompson. We can easily see, and Sanjay M as well. If you want to go Substrack in there, you could as well. Like, I am more happy to chase those great bets this week, knowing that they're going to give us the best chance at outright bet rather than try to get lucky picking between those other 20 options that are all good enough options to be on a betting card, but they shouldn't make up a majority of the betting card, if that makes sense. That's just like, yes, we're already trying to get lucky, but that's like double dipping on the luck. Like trying to get lucky with, like, Denny McCarthy's not bad this week. He can, like, I can see why people are betting on him. At the same time, you can make just as good of a case to be on Jason Day, Keith Mitchell, JT Poston. And so when you start doing that, you start to lose your strategy betting wise, if that makes sense. And I think that's more of the theme I'm seeing this week is that people are not sticking to their betting strategy. And maybe that's because they don't have one. And that could be the thing this week. But talking about outright bets, Mark Hubbard, I mentioned he is someone that I'm betting on long shot wise. We are getting some decent odds on him. Again, points bet guys, they are giving us some good lines. 70-1 for Mark Hubbard to win. The issue with Mark Hubbard is his form has been tailing off, right? It's been terrible. If there was a week where it's going to pop, it should be this week, just given his course history. And his course history has been getting better each start from a 6th, 13th to 41st. It's actually the other order. So 31st, 6th, or 13th, and 6th. So if it gets any better, he could be finding himself winning The issue with him, and this is where I'm probably falling in a little bit to the long shot nature of this week, is I know data wise he really pops. He does remind me a lot of Alex Smalley coming into this event last year, who Smalley finished second. The issue is his form has been bad. Like, is he really that likely to win? And so that's kind of more echoing the point that I just made. It's like, all right, I might just, like, if I had to say it right now, in retrospect, probably just Rye, McNeely, and Thompson, and then leave ourselves some opportunities to do some live bets if the opportunity presents itself. That's something I recommended 2 years ago when Lucas Glover ended up winning. Was it 2 years ago? 3 years ago with Lucas Glover winning. But from there, I will say Andrew Novak is someone that's casually popping. Like, he's top 25 or better in all the key metrics that we look at for predictability. His bad starts have not been bad as well. And so, like, yes, he has a miscut mixed in there, but it wasn't terrible. You know, one bad round. And then we've seen 2 straight top 20 finishes from him. Key stat wise, nothing terrible, nothing elite. You know, pretty much just above 60% of the field. We'll take that. And he does have that course experience. So he's someone that is really popping. And we can get him at 100-1, I think it was on FanDuel. Yeah. Pretty good odds there for him as well. So I don't mind that. And then Sam Stevens, Sanjay are 2 players I'm betting as well that I mentioned. Sam Stevens, the more the week has progressed, the more I've kind of like, all right, that was probably a dumb bet. Just kind of echoing what I said earlier. It's like kind of fell into the odds nature. Like, I did fall for that number that he had, 55-1 now. Let's see, Pinnacle about 58-1. Still not bad. Like, the key stats are what's obviously popping for him. He's a scorer, top 15 in birdie or better percentage and par 5 scoring. Really good putter as well, top 20 in the field, and ball striking, top 20 in the field. So it wouldn't be surprising to see him pop. This is where I'd probably be better off chasing. Let's see here. BetMGM potentially to make cut. That's not terrible, but like 10-1 to him to top 5, like that's probably a better bet. 5-1 to top 10. It's probably a better route to go now. So I do have a little bit cold feet on him now. Let's see. I'm trying to get back into some questions. Then we're going to get into some prop bets, guys. Prop bets is kind of an interesting one this week when looking at it. So, and then we'll get into some matchup bets, and then we'll get into the DFS talk. So let's see. I just want to make sure I'm all caught up. Yeah, a lot of people are trying to get to Harry Higgs as a long shot bet. He has been playing well on the Korn Ferry Tour. Yes, indeed. I don't really see it with him. I get why people are getting there just because he has been playing well on the Korn Ferry Tour. For him, though, that really hasn't translated to the PGA Tour too much. Now, I know he was doing pretty well at the U.S. Open for a little bit, and then it really fell off, and then he was just terrible. And so this would be an event where it can correlate or where it can transfer. We have seen that, but like, if we're doing that, why not just do someone that actually does project to be a good play this week, you know, based off of the data? Like Andrew Novak, for instance. I'm not saying it's a bad bet, but like, I would rather go that route this week. And heck, I'd rather, this is going to sound terrible, I'd rather go Zach Johnson this week because Zach Johnson has been casually decent this year. I would rather go that route this week than chase that, just as an FYI. So kind of interesting there. How much on Troy Money Merit for me this week? I would say he's a good like top 20 bet again. I don't have as much this week as last week. Mostly I just don't want to double dip the chip too much, if that makes sense. Like, top 20 finish at this event last year. This is an event where he should be playing a lot more, and it's surprising that he hasn't had that good course history. He's from Iowa. He was born in Iowa, from the Twin Cities. He's a Midwest guy, or was. Now he lives in Idaho. Like, it makes perfect sense for him to have a good week at this track. Like, it's not a long track. It's the greens that he likes. Like, he should be good to go. And so I don't mind it. Like, he still had a good price tag. But I have spread my values out more this week than last week. Like, I'm still getting to Kazire. I mentioned Zach Johnson at 7K. Like, I'm okay with that. Strublin's going to be someone I'm getting on. But yeah, I don't mind him for a top 20 bet. Like, he is someone that, like, betting wise, I think does make sense. Because when he pops, he really can pop. That's the thing with Troy Mayer. Like, when he is on, he is going to be on and firing. And you can typically find the events where he's going to be on. And this should be one of those. And so I don't mind that. I actually love these tournaments as well. Anyone that's followed the channel kind of knows that like the secondary events and whatnot are the events that I get the most excited for because that's where we're getting the best bang for our buck. And a lot of the times, other people in this space are not as excited, not as like confident. And so you just see random ownership stuff happen and we get good lines betting wise. So it typically is one of the better edge weeks with these events that people aren't as excited about. So I really don't mind that. I actually don't mind this call out. So he is someone that I can see why you're getting on him. So I wouldn't talk you out of Ryan McCormick. He is someone that I didn't get to at all, but like at the same time, I can see why you're playing him. He is someone that scores on par fives, can score some birdies, not a bad putter, has recently popped. Like I completely get that. I was down that range trying to find good values, and I think I ended up slightly rebuilding. And so I guess that kind of sums up my thoughts on him. But like I get what you're seeing there. That's a value play. Like obviously you're trying to find someone down there to play. And that's a play that I think kind of stands out between everyone else in that pricing range. Scott Piercy kind of stands out, but he's been terrible at this event, so I don't think that's worth it. But he's like the one that stands out in that like under, let's say, really 6.5 range, 6.5 range. Because I'm scrolling, I'm looking at it right now, and I'll show you that as well while I'm looking at it. Then I'll get into props betting. But I'm like looking at it right now. I'm still scrolling, like really becomes Patrick Fishburne. That's that kind of pops. And then a lot of other people that casually pop as well. Carson Young is decent then. Vince Whaley, Tyler Duncan, Troy Merritt, Ryan Moore. Patton Kinsire is kind of the clear cut sub 7K play this week, though. Really popping. And David Skins is not bad as well, for that matter. Really good stat fit there as well. But I completely get what you're saying there, Zach. Actually, I think that's a good call. All right, so now let's go ahead and get into some prop bets this week. And so the unfortunate thing about this week, prop betting wise, is that we aren't getting any big prop line differences. Another thing that I kind of added into the website last week was sorting by prop line difference. You no longer have to like double click where it's going the minus or the plus like difference is just total difference. And then obviously that'll be based off of the tag. You'll be able to figure out if that doesn't make sense. But looking at edge, we have a couple of good bets on PrizePicks. Ches Reavie over 4 birdies. Now, my issue with these ones right here, Ches Reavie, Zach Johnson, these are most likely just going to be pushes because they're at that 4. If they're at 3.5, obviously we feel pretty good about that. And same thing for Matt Kuchar. The chances are they are going to get to 4 birdies, all of them. I personally don't really like to target those too much because let's just say we do Ches Reavie, Zach Johnson, Joel Damon, and Matt Kuchar. We're doing all those bets, all of them for their overs. Maybe Joel Damon over fairways hit, which is a bet I really do like. Let's just say we do all those and like Joel Damon is the only one that hit and all the other 4 push. Then it just really becomes not a worthwhile bet at that point. Like, sure, you'd still be making money, but like the risk doesn't meet the reward at that point. So really, I'm looking at this and seeing Joel Damon for over his fairways hit 9.5. That's a pretty solid one. What is the event average? Only 8.2. So I don't exactly like that, but at the same time, he is someone that typically does better than the field. And so if he is doing that, given the lines that are out there, that's one of the better bets that we have. Then let's see here. Yeah, this is interesting. Jordan Spieth under birdies are better against Sungjae Im. Jordan Spieth is definitely playing this event for a reason, right? Like he needs to find his game. So he's going to go back to the tournament, which I believe I'm like 95%. I shouldn't say it, 90% sure. Let's not even do that. I'm pretty sure that this is the event that he got his first PGA Tour victory on. I'm pretty sure. And that's why he came back 2 years prior when I was able to watch him chip in for Eagle on 17, I believe on Sunday to take the lead. Just a fun memory because he drove it into the trees and then had an awesome chip in out. Just a fun sequence there. This is an event, though, where I do think that is kind of warranted. Steve Stricker again, Zach Johnson, like these are guys that maybe didn't necessarily dominate in other events that can come to this course and just play it well. And so I do think there is something to that. At the same time, Sungjae Im is someone that is so hit or miss. Sungjae Im could definitely blow him out of the water here. I already mentioned Sungjae Im as someone that, like, outright wise, I think it's a great outright bet. But I also don't mind him to miss the cut as well because that's kind of been his range of outcomes. So yes, it's kind of a nervous bet, but at the same time, we really have two good bets. That's my long way of saying on PrizePicks. Joel Damon over fairways hit, Jordan Spieth under birdies are better against Sungjae. And typically speaking, guys, these are never the good bets. The birdie are better matchups. You'd be much better off doing actual matchup bets that we'll get into in just a second here. But obviously, if you're doing props betting, then you probably don't have access to a sports book. But yeah, let's jump into underdog. So this is going to be underdog now. A little bit better on underdog. A little bit better. Ben Griffin under fantasy score. That's the best prop bet we really have total. Okay. Ben Griffin is someone that does project well this week in general. But we look at the average line, it's about 30.6. We look at the player average, it's about 26. And now that is a little bit due to the field. The field's not as good. So the player average, that's for Ben Griffin. The group average is 27.6. Sorry. But what I was trying to say is like that is going to naturally be low because the field is not that good. And he is slightly below that at 26. So given the line that we have on underdog at 32.15, like that is a good bet that we are getting for the under. Like chances are he's going to get that under. And then we also have Doug Gim for under fairways hit. 10 is a lot. 10 is a lot. I already mentioned that. Like, I don't really get that line, honestly. Like, that's a lot of fairways to hit. And so we are actually getting a lot of under birdie or under fantasy points that we could run out, a bunch of them. And I don't mind that for round one. So Hosler, Doug Gim, and actually let's double check the weather here. So yeah, Thursday, 18-mile-per-hour winds. Probably going to be the toughest day to score. Probably. I don't want to talk in absolutes, but it makes sense, like right? Like the other weather, Friday's going to be a little bit easier. Saturday, Sunday, like weather concerns are nothing on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. A little bit of rain potential on Saturday and Sunday, but in terms of wind, Thursday's the day. And so, yeah, it makes like that just further echoes the fact that these are probably going to be good bets for the under fantasy score. So really, I think that's the route to go. Like, let's see here, actually. Bo. It's funny because like all these guys right here, again, kind of furthering my like outright point that I was making earlier. It's like I could make a case for like all these guys that we're going to be betting the unders for here, because like they do somewhat pop, and that's kind of the nature of the beast that we have this week. But that's also why I think kind of just sticking with the players are projected to be good outright bets or great outright bets rather than decent ones. I think this is the best route to go. So we also have Keith Mitchell, Mark Hubbard. Man, freaking Mitchell was a disappointment last week. But again, that kind of goes back to the point of where course history can matter. I really think if he just had played that course, over the past 4 years, he probably does make the cut there. Well, let's see. We put 1 unit on this bet. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slip bet. It's only paying out 3. That's terrible. So we wouldn't want to do that. Let's just reduce it down here. Yeah, it's dumb. You take off some bets off of that and you're actually getting a bigger payout. They got to figure that out. That's stupid. You'd be better off just doing almost a 2 slip bet here and doing that bet multiple times. So obviously 1 unit bet here. But that's not a bad route to go. Again, we're betting on kind of the course playing more difficult tomorrow. So that kind of does it for the props. Let's go ahead and jump into some matchup bets. And I really just want to do round 1 matchup bets because I already did some tournament bets on the video yesterday. Which slide is it on? There we go. All right. So looking at some matchup bets that we have, let's see. Not terrible here. This is actually interesting. So Neil Shipley plus what? 37 against Jacob Bridgman on Bet Online. Like that's a good bet. I know a lot of people don't have Bet Online, but that's a good bet. But let's just go with kind of the popular books here for you guys instead. Really BetMGM, DraftKings. I think that's probably it. So we'll just stick with like DraftKings. Like Seamus Power, loser to Bo Osler. Okay, so when we look at it in terms of like round one scoring, Bo Osler projects to be a little bit better, about a 52.7% edge for him to kind of win that matchup compared to Seamus Power at about 47. So that's a pretty good edge that we are getting there. And that's a plus number that we're getting there. So that's a good edge. Right off the board, that's a good edge. And this is for tournament. I guess I wanted to do round. Let's see if we're getting any good round bets. We're not for those ones. That's unfortunate, actually. It's actually really annoying. All right, so tournament, we'll just do tournament then. So we'll toss in Pinnacle. So yeah, don't mind that one there for Bo Osler over Seamus Power. They're basically the same, I would say. Let's see, Poston and Luke Clanton. I actually don't mind that as well. Like I don't mind betting on, honestly, those two younger guys a little bit this week. I think that's not a bad route to go. We have Sunjay losing to Aaron Rye. Really not shocking with Aaron Rye ranking out the best. That's on Pinnacle. And again, these are pretty good odds that we're getting. Now, when we flip it over and kind of look at it from a sportsbook side, where we're getting just to edge their sportsbook guys, and I kind of explained this in the outright video as well. If you guys are confused by what I'm doing here, we're sorting by the 9-5 edge at the start, and so thus we're going based off of the 9-5 edge bet. Now we're sorting up based off of the sportsbook edge, and so we're using the sportsbook edge bet. And basically the difference between those two is when we're looking at the sportsbook edge, we're just taking that line that said sportsbook has. So like BetMGM right now is giving Denny McCarthy about a 50% edge to beat Davis Thompson for the tournament. Whereas if you look at the average odds, they're giving him about a 52.3% edge to win. And so we are gaining about 2.3 for a percent likelihood edge there. And so even though he's the favorite to win there, that's not a bad bet. Here's another interesting one. DraftKings has Patrick Rogers losing to Mark Hubbard in the tournament, whereas the average sportsbook has it at 50.29. Definitely interesting there. So when you're just looking at the sportsbook odds, that's another decent bet. We can go down the list and doing that. Now, where we could get into potentially some trouble there is like this when we're looking at the 9-5 data. That's basically not a good bet, if that makes sense. Like, so you're kind of just choosing one or the other, basically, there, if that makes sense. And again, this is a tool that I added in there last week. So I'm still polishing it out a little bit here. And that's the nice thing I would say about, let me just plug this real quick, about the 9-5 membership. It's just I'm always adding stuff in there. And so like right now, if you guys want to sign up, it's literally $10 a month. But for new members, it'd be 50% off, so $5. Use promo code SUMMER to get access to that. And that's going to be available for the first 200 people that sign up until August 1st. So a shameless plug there, but yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to, if I can add in something to one of the tools that I have, I try to. And I have a long list of things that I'm trying to add in there more and more. Useful tools to make us get better. And that's kind of a detriment to me kind of getting out content and stuff, because there's just so many things I'm doing. And like when we're having a good run, it's tough for me to highlight that because there's just so much going on now. Like think about it. When I started out in fantasy golf, there was just DFS going on. And so when it was a good week in DFS, I could be like, it was a good week in DFS. Whereas now we got prop betting on the DFS sites like PrizePicks, Underdog. We also have regular prop betting on normal sports books. We have matchup bets. We have round bets. We have first round leader bets. We have first round leader or first round showdown. We have outright bets. We have drafts. We still have DFS. And so it becomes much harder for me there. And so that's just kind of a funny kind of behind the scenes thing. It's kind of a weird mental struggle for me as well, just like keeping track of it all because there's so much to keep track of now, more so really than any other sport I would say as well, because there's so many different nuances. Like you have the tournament and then you also have the rounds. Uh, it's interesting, but it's also fun. But let's jump into some quick round one 3-ball bets. And again, this is kind of the sweet spot right now. So I'm not going to change the text here. 3-ball bets. And so looking at Aaron Rye, again, I kind of mentioned this on the betting video. That's the only one here where I don't necessarily think it's that worthwhile just because it's not greater than 2-1. And so Maverick McNeely I'd be fine with. Luke Klein I'd be fine with. Kevin Yu I'd be fine with. Neil Shipley I'd be fine with. And I don't know if we need to do it that much further, but kind of the issue is that you might already have some exposure to Clanton, to Neil Shipley. If you're not someone that wants to double dip like that, I wouldn't blame you because if you're already doing the matchup bets, maybe you don't want to do that. But we are getting some pretty good edges, I would say, 3-ball bets wise. And so that's pretty nice. If you want to go Aaron Rye, you can. Obviously, that's the best one. But obviously, compared to Tyson Alexander and Harry Higgs, like, yeah, no doubt he's going to project to win that by a good margin or win or tie that matchup. Like, obviously, I know a lot of people like Harry Higgs, but like, chances are that's not going to pan out. And same thing with McNeely versus Matthew Naismith and Carl Jan. Like, that's a pretty good one we have. You go down the list here. Like, we are getting some good odds for these 3-ball bets this week. This is a good question. Let's see. It's kind of off board, but not terrible. Let's see here. So, so with PrizePicks, we are going to get some discounted bets. Let's see if we have any good ones right now. I don't think we do just yet. So let me just see here. No, not yet. I would honestly wait until tomorrow to do that rather than forcing in a bet right now. Because it'd be Contreras is like the only good one. And that game might have just started during this live stream. Let's see. It's starting a little bit. That's about it. So I would wait. Until tomorrow morning when there's better bets in there. So yeah, I know I was kind of looking at that as well. So yeah, I'm waiting for tomorrow as well there with that. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the lineup builder. But I do want to talk about ownership as well. So we'll jump into that and then we'll get into the lineup builder. So guys, interestingly enough, this week ownership wise, I would say not a bad week. I honestly thought this week there'd be a lot of crazy ownerships. And there just isn't. It's like bravo to the community this week for not getting too crazy. And now maybe potentially we see this update and we probably will. Don't get me wrong. We probably will see this update. But I would argue like we're really not getting any bad ownerships. And that's what we're seeing here. Like, look at this. In terms of like the most overowned golfers this week, guys, there's 3 players that are over 10% and like barely. So like that already tells us that like no one's going too crazy with the ownerships just yet. Again, that could change overnight. And this is an event where I wouldn't be surprised if that does change overnight. In terms of leverage, again, I wouldn't say like any of these are like too high owned in the data saying that as well. Like Mark Hubbard properly owned, even though he's the 3rd best leverage play. And so that tells me kind of all we need to know. The ownership's pretty much being spread out. And so you probably don't have to worry about making too much of a chalky build. Now, maybe McNeely, compared to Davis Thompson, compared to Danny McCarthy, compared to Aaron Rye, SunJam. I know he's coming in off of a bad week last week where he finished like 44th, maybe 41st off the top of my head, but like he has just as much upside and maybe a little bit more safety really than anyone in this range. So like, yeah, that could be a slight edge that you gain. Jason Day, interestingly enough, when you look at it from a Vegas perspective, they would actually say he's the most underowned player. When we're looking at made cut percent from Vegas based off the odds, and then also likely to win. And then actually Keith Mitchell as well. And we can see like we're looking at based off of the 9 to 5 data. doesn't trust Keith Mitchell as much, but like, yeah, Keith Mitchell missed the kind of the number last week. I could see that, but I don't want to like talk myself into these plays this week. Like Sam Stevens, I would say I get why people aren't on him. I'm definitely like double that. But again, like this is a pretty good. It makes sense the ownership that we're getting here, and so that's why I probably don't need to touch on that too much, if that makes sense. Let's see, just trying to look at some questions here. Oh man, I don't know about Shank. I hear why you're playing Shank, but he's been bad. He's been bad recently. Where is he priced? Like, he really doesn't rank out well. I'm not going to talk you out. Like I never want to talk. All right, it's not terrible. It's not terrible. Mile rank rise, top 50, but 7.7. Let's see here. And like Troy Merritt made sense last week because he was at a price tag where you were trying to find someone to play, and like he was just logical, like a good upside chase it type play. But like, let's look at this. Patrick Rogers, Ben Griffin, both better. Bo Hauser, a little bit higher price. Ryo, I know a lot of people are kind of like him. He's popping up. Andrew Novak's right there. Neil Shipley, Michael Kim, Nate Lashley. Hey, I don't know. I'd rather go Brendan Todd. I'd rather go those guys. Jacob Bridgman. Rather go those guys. But I get it. Just he's been bad though recently is the issue. It's not like Merritt last week where like he popped recently, had made 3 out of his past 4 cuts. I would almost argue like Patton Kazire is just as good of a play. And you'd basically be playing him for the same reasons. You know, one recent miscut here. I know Shane's was 2 years ago. Kazire's was last year, but a 16th and 11th place finish has also shown some recent upside. Again, I don't want to talk you out of that or into that, but it scares me. We'll put it that way. So I do want to jump into kind of the lineup builder, just kind of showing you guys what I had already done. I did this really earlier than I typically would in the week, and so I'll kind of show you guys what I'm running out there right now, kind of in terms of ownership wise. And so I mentioned that the ownership leverage was basically saying no one's over-owned, no one's really that under-owned. And now I realized I had done this before. The ownership projections had updated. I'm doing the same thing. I'm spreading it out this week, guys, a little bit more so than I typically would. I'm pretty heavy on Aaron Rye, Davis Thompson, Maverick McNeely, Andrew Novak, 25%. And then, yeah, I'm just getting like doubling up on a lot of players ownership-wise this week. And so definitely just spreading it out as basically as much as possible this week. And I think that's probably the route to go. Just because we like, again, we have like 4 great plays, right? And then after that, we have like probably 25 good plays. And so it's like, why play the guessing game on dialing that in maybe a little bit too much, maybe potentially a little bit too much, you know? And so that's why I'm spreading it out a decent amount this week. And then I'm actually curious for round 1 showdown. Let's just run this. I'm kind of curious as to what it says. Already getting Aaron Rye, a decent amount. While we're talking about that, let's just kind of pull that up real quick. So the issue, and let's see here again. I mean, the wind's probably not going to be too bad in the morning, and it's going to get worse in the afternoon tomorrow. Again, 18 mile per hour winds. I do have a slight kind of pause with that in terms of the showdown tomorrow. Because when we look at it, guys, we have, in terms of players that rank inside the top 10 for showdown tomorrow, there's 3 in the AM. 3. Should be 50-50, right? No, we got 3 in the top 10 for early. And then late, obviously, we have all the good plays there. Aaron Rye, Maverick McNeely, Jason Day, Davis Thompson, Luke Clan, Kevin Yu, Seb Straka. And so that's the annoyance with a showdown tomorrow. And this might be a thing where tomorrow, and I probably going to do this after this video. Let me get that loaded up for you guys here. I'm probably going to split it 50-50 here, where I'm doing extreme emphasis on AM only 2 times. And then the other 50% will be kind of just the whole field. It'd be the whole field pretty much. I don't think I'd have to change anything. So like, you can't really see it on the screen. Let me find a different screen here. 1 second here. I'm just going to use the lineup builder slide so you guys can kind of see this here. So like for the lineup builder, like for AM or for round 1 showdown, AM early. And I'm probably just doing that. And then probably factoring in round 1 showdown rank. I don't even know if we need to do that. Like we probably don't even need to do that. But at the same time, yeah, I'm going to run this out. So I'm going to export this. And then I'm just going to upload this right here and run it for round 1. That's what I'm doing. And that'll be 50% of my builds for round 1. Am I going to the tournament this week? Probably not. No. There's a chance I might go on Friday. I want to, but I've been really dialed in on like updating stuff, and so I don't want to like lose that momentum. And it is a little bit of a drive for me, so it's not like it's a day trip in total, you know. So it's not like I can just go for a little bit. And it does depend on the weather. Like if it's raining, like it is projected to here and there, like that could be a hindrance in going there. So it still might be a chance for me to go Friday. I love being at a tournament and sweating a made cut and sweating your lineups on a Friday. Like that's the best feeling, honestly. To me, it's I haven't been there where like Xander when he won the PGA Championship. Like that you probably couldn't top that moment because obviously I'm a big Xander fan, but like being that someone that does fantasy golf and like DFS and whatnot, like it's the best feeling, just like sweating out your golfers making the cut. And obviously when they do make the cut, that's even better. But yeah, I hope I can go. But guys, that's going to be all for today's video. Good luck for you guys tomorrow and throughout the week. Again, kind of covered a lot. There's always a lot to cover when it comes to fantasy golf, but appreciate you guys being here. Good luck. Again, if you guys have never signed up and you want to, you guys get access to all the tools that you saw in this video, as well as the prop tools that are available for just $5 a month for your first month. Do want to make that clear. It's just for your first month, okay? And that'll be $10, but that's still already great value. That's going to be all, guys. Appreciate you being here. Good luck with your lineups. And as always, let's keep cashing.